Hare Krishna. So we are studying from chapter 5 of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. We see Narad Muni, the guru of Srila Vyasdev, helping Vyasdev diagnose the cause of his dejection, his despondency. Narad Muni says that you have not sufficiently glorified Bhagavan. The glories of Bhagavan are not made central in your teachings. They are not direct and they are not continuous. So you have instead chosen to focus on dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Without the revelation of the nama, rupa, guna, lila of Bhagwan, your presentation is khila. Your presentation is deficient. That's the diagnosis of the Guru Narad Muni. Because you have presented Brahman, you have presented the Brahma Gyan, but you have not presented Bhagavan. Therefore, you remain fulfilled. And if the author is unfulfilled, what can we speak of those who study that literature? So, as much as you have emphasized and explained the Purusharthas of Dharma, Artha, Kam, Moksha, you should describe the greatness of Vasudev to an equal extent. Yeah. Your emphasis on Bhagwan and Bhakti is disproportionate. You have in fact presented Bhakti as a means to moksha, which is completely unacceptable. Because Bhakti is what actually surpasses moksha, not the other way around. So you have to also do it repeatedly. Anuvarnita. Make it central, make it primary, and make it repetitive. That is how we will understand what is the highlight, what is the theme. And then the acharyas say, not just mundane literature, even Vedic literature, which does not speak of the glories of Bhagwan, that is also considered incomplete and deficient. Yeah, and then we beautifully discuss the topic of Naishkarmyam. If Jnanam about Brahman is insufficient without Achyuta Bhava, without a devotional disposition, then what to speak of karma, even if it is Nishkama karma, right? So Gyan can remove ignorance, but without bhakti, you cannot have the right orientation. So Narad Muni said, you have the qualifications, Narad Muni. You just have to direct all of your focus towards Bhagwan. Make Bhagwan the spotlight. And enter into Samadhi, Samadhina Anusmara. That is the instruction he gives Vyasdev. Why? Because with a pure heart, if you enter into a state of Samadhi, the nature of the Lord, the pastimes of the Lord, they are self revealing. They will spontaneously appear in your pure mind. So enter into that deep state and then share that with us. Otherwise, if mind is divided, yeah, if we speak about objects with a separated vision, subjects which are unrelated to the Lord, that is like our boat is tossed by a wind, ultimately reaching nowhere. Okay. So now we continue. We are on verse 15. What does Narad Muni have to say further, diagnosing the dejection and despondency of Vyasdev? So let's chant verse 15. जुगुप्सितं धर्मकृते अनुशासतः स्वभावरक्तस्य महान् व्यतिक्रमः यद्वाक्यतो धर्म इति तत्र स्थितो न मन्यते तस्य निवारणं जनः. Very beautiful. Narad is continuing to pinpoint the problem. Jugupsitam. Whatever you have presented, it's condemned. Why? The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy. Swabhava raktasya. What is their natural swabhava? To think that they are the body and the soul, and therefore indulge in senses. So the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy. And you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. Does this remind you of something? That false knowledge is worse than ignorance, as Ishopanishad teaches us. Avidya, people Out of ignorance, they may act selfishly. But if somebody creates a beautiful philosophy to justify that self indulgence, that is more dangerous. That will lead to a darker destination than just being ignorant. Yeah. And you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. So, in the name of religion, now they will do materialism. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable, Vyasdev. Because they are guided under your instructions, they'll accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. So, very beautiful. He's making such a sharp critique. He's not mincing any words. So, he's saying, Vyasdev may say that I have written Mahabharata so that people could hear the glories of Bhagwan Krishna. He's there, right there in Mahabharata. Yeah, there is even a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, as when we come to it, Canto 3, Chapter 5, where Vidura is saying that Vyasadeva has written Mahabharata to describe the glories of the Lord. So, very clearly, the intention of Vyasadeva is pure. He wants to present Bhagwan and Bhakti and the glories of Bhagwan. Yeah. And what does that same verse say? This is chapter 5, verse number 12 of Canto 3. It says, in that work, he attracts people's attention to the topics of Lord. How? This is interesting. Through the topics about material happiness. See, normally people are not interested in accepting or hearing about dharma or bhakti. So, in order to make people accept the worship of the Lord, dharma krite, you have end up teaching what is condemned, jugupsitam. Yeah, you intended to give them worship of the Lord, dharma krite, but to lead them to dharma krite, you have offered what is condemned. That is jugupsitam. That's really sad. Yeah, it is jugupsitam. It's verily condemned. Dharma krite for the matter of religion. So, did you understand? To present the glories of the Lord, to present the worship of the Lord, Vyasdev first presented something that is condemned. What is that? What is condemned? Karma. So Vyasdev presents karma as a means to reach Bhagwan, but that is exactly what Narad Muni is criticizing. It has led to a great disturbance, Mahavyatikaram. Why? Because materialistic people are already inclined and attached to enjoy. Swabhava raktasya. In our conditioned state, we have impressions of past enjoyment, attempted enjoyment of matter. So I already have an inclination to lord over and exploit matter. And because you have given the path of karma, you have only made them go deeper into that swabhava. So this is the expert, teacher has to be, especially a guru, has to understand the context, the background of a student before they present or recommend a technique. Like as like an expert physician would recommend a certain medication for a certain disease. So what is the swabhava of a person? Will something I give them encourage, ignite, trigger their swabhava, or it will purify their swabhava? So his intention, Vyasdev's intention was to help the conditioned soul. Yeah. But he has actually end up hurting them. Why? Because people are at their starting point in their conditioned state, they are prakrita. You see the word prakrita here? That to begin with, they are materially minded and they'll accept karma as religion and they'll not consider bhakti. Yeah, they'll not think about the prohibitions. So, because karma means you worship for a material gain. Yeah, you do this and you get to go to Swarga. You do this and you gain to enjoy in the celestial realms. So they will think it is not a fault to worship devatas. They'll not give up that path of karma, and they'll never come to the conclusion. You presented everything and the conclusion, they'll take just the method and skip the conclusion. What is the conclusion? Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. That statement they'll ignore. They think, oh, that is not for us. Yeah. Who should give up their dharmas or worldly duties? Maybe people who are incapable or incapacitated, disabled, they should become sannyasis. But it's not for us. For us, Vyasdev has given the path of karma. Do religion so that you can have a better experience, better standard of life. So this is the mistake that Narad Muni is pointing out, that you have given them practices, but they are desire-driven practices. Yeah. In the name of dharma, people will practice only karma. So they will accept those concessions as the final path, and they'll not give them up. Because the journey is to get us to jnana. To reach jnana, we have to give up karma. But Narad Muni is saying they'll not give it up because it's a recommended path now. If you had recommended only bhakti, then they would have had the impetus to give up karma. But now you have recommended karma. Why will they give it up? So that's why we see that good intentions alone are not sufficient. Although Vyasdev's intention was compassionate, like a speaker or a teacher or an author, you want to uplift the audience. But the thing is, Vyasdev wanted to bring people towards dharma and eventually towards devotion. First, sarva dharman parityajya, and then mam ekam sharanam vraja. That's devotion. So his intention was to bring people towards dharma and ultimately towards devotion, but by beginning with their existing desires. So the intention and the method that you give are two different things. People are already colored by their swabhava. They'll quickly take your method as a permission. Oh, Vyasdev has given us karma mark, karma can't, let us do it. They'll ignore the intended progression. Oh, that it has to, we have to grow beyond it. So, because you have praised Kamya Karma, it is obscuring the real meaning of the Vedas, which is Bhakti. So, that is the fault. That people are not going to read it with a clear mind. Everyone is going to read it through the colored lens of their attachments, and they'll only accept selectively. So sometimes, to gain participation, sometimes leaders lower the standards. Okay, anyone can come, no prerequisites. That let people come, they'll mature later. Have you heard this? Don't keep any qualification, let everyone come. Let us have high participation. We'll see, we'll help them mature later on. But sometimes these programs work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes concession becomes the culture, then the whole movement comes down to that standard. And often it is the latter. So we have to, it's okay. See, that is the difficulty. That's the difficult job of an acharya, to reach people in Swabhava and to get them to Swarupa. How? If we present something very high, they'll not be interested. If we present something low, they'll not go beyond it. So this is not an easy problem Vyasdev was trying to solve. What we can do, that's the role of an acharya, to differentiate the detail from the essence. The essence has to remain same. The details can be changed. The form can be changed, but the essence has to be maintained. So an acharya comes in every generation and they change the way we practice things. They modernize it, they contemporize it. That's okay. But the essence is kept intact. If somebody comes and changes the essence and retains the form, that's orthodoxy. Then again, it's ineffective. So it's very tricky. So we cannot say which strategy will work. What we can say is, okay, at least clearly label which practices are transitional and which are final? Okay, can we define what is in the path of Vaishnavism, what is the final goal? And what are the practices which are transitory, which we have to give up? We have to give up practicing bhakti with karma and jnana. That is transitional. What is ultimate? Ananya bhakti. At least mark the transitional and the ultimate from the very beginning. That can give some hope on how people receive it, but still there is no guarantee. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada says that Srila Vyasdev's compilation of Vedic literatures is on the basis of regulated performance of fruitive activities, karma kand. You do karma kand at this time, in this fashion, sitting in this direction. So a major portion of Vedas is just talking about karma kand. This is the mantra to invoke this devata. This is the mantra to glorify this devata. And this is the fruit that you can get from this yagya. So Narad Muni is saying this is not right. Already human beings by long association. Yeah. Karana guna sangasya. Because sangha of material gunas for a very long time, we already have a natural inclination to identify with matter and also to exploit matter, lord it over matter. They have no sense of responsibility of human life. Okay. So Vedas are meant to help us go beyond embodiment, beyond samsara, beyond this cycle of transmigration in 8.4 million species of life, which is an imprisonment, which is meant for conditioned soul. So the human life is a chance to get out of this imprisonment, and the purpose of Vedas is to get us out of this, not keep us so entrenched and involved that, oh, this yagya I do and this fruit, I can go to Swarga. So, one is implicating you, whereas Vedas are actually meant to free you. The only occupation for human being is to establish his lost relationship with God. Savai pumsa paro dharma yato bhaktir adhokshaje. One should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. What is it? It's a diversion of human energy. Our energy should be directed towards salvation. Remember? Apavargasya. We should direct our human effort for moksha, not for artha and kama. Already we have an inclination for it. And if people's energy is diverted to artha and kama, it leads to a misguided civilization. Okay, so Vyasdev, in the Vedic explanations, he ends up encouraging sense enjoyment in some form or other, which becomes a great barrier for spiritual advancement. Once you give people a taste for sense gratification, it might be Vedic. Not everything Vedic is ultimate. We have to include the higher goal of moksha, then it becomes Vedantic. And even in Vedantic, how to approach that ultimate absolute truth. So when then Vedantic becomes Vaishnava Vedanta. So his intention was good, but people who are going to accept it would get deviated. And very interestingly, Srila Prabhupada says that because you have encouraged them in Karma Kand, do religion and gain religion for kama. Nahi dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthaya kalpate. You remember we discussed that? So the purpose of dharma should not be for artha or kama. The purpose of dharma should only be moksha. Nahi artha ekantasya kamo labha smrita. That even artha should not be used for sense indulgence. Then what should it be used for? Tattva jigyasa. That's exactly what Vyasdev is saying. Vedas should give tattva jigyasa, not the artha and kama. So people in general will not agree to renounce material activities because now you have made it bona fide. Now it is present in the Vedas that you can do these rituals to get these material gains. So that will hold people in material bondage. And yajnas will become so rampant that in the name of yajna, people will go on to kill animals. So Narad Muni could foresee that a time will come when the Vedas will be misused, and then Lord Buddha will incarnate to stop that animal sacrifice in the name of religion. So Vyasdev has that vision. Therefore, he's condemning such literatures. Yeah. Because in Vedic literatures, yes, in some places, regulated sacrifices are recommended. But the problem is if that enters into the hands of people who are covered with swabhava, with their own lust and greed and envy, then they'll not care for the prohibitions, but just make the concessions the standard. Because foolish, materialistic men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. So there are rituals of the Vedas and there is the ultimate goal of the Vedas. So people forget that it is actually meant to lead us progressively into jnana and then bhakti. They forget that progressive method and just take the karma kand part. So Vedas clearly say that what is perfection of life? Not karma or not artha, yeah, not even praja. It is only vairagya. In one class, Gauranga Prabhu made a very beautiful presentation of how in today's world we directly talk of Vijaya, victory, right? But in Vedic culture, it was not Vijay which came first. One second, I'm trying to see if I have it here. Yeah. Mm, okay, I can't find it now. But it was very nicely he presented that Vedic culture doesn't start with Vijay. Yeah. Vedic culture starts with humility because in humility you can start to receive knowledge. It starts with Vinaya. When you are in a humble state of mind, when you're ready to accept your mistakes, that you are not perfect, in that Vinay, you are given knowledge by your Guru. That is Vichar. From Vichar, you get the power to discriminate. You will get the Viveka Shakti. Viveka Shakti, like Prabhupada is mentioning here, the purpose of Vedic knowledge is to help us. Perfection of life can be reached only by renunciation, that is Vairagya. So, Vinay, Vichar, Vivek, Vinay, humility, Vichar, wisdom, Viveka. From that wisdom, you get discernment, and then you are able to practice Vairagya, renunciation, detachment from material objects and their result. From Vairagya comes Vishwas in Bhagwan. And from Vishwas in Bhagwan comes Vijay. So this is a difference in Vedic culture and today's contemporary modern culture, where everyone just wants to everyone is talking about achievement and success. So Vairagya, Vivek, Vichar, and Vinaya are required. So that's the purpose of Vedas. And materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunction. They say we have our own leadership sutras, success sutras. Renunciation is meant for people who have defects or people who have failed in material life. Renunciation is only for them. So Mahabharat has topics on transcendental subjects, but there are also topics on material. subject matters. There are also material topics there. So the whole idea of Mahabharata is that ultimately Bhagavad Gita is presented. And Bhagavad Gita concludes by presenting Sarva Dharman Parityajya. Give up all other engagements and surrender unto me fully. So those who have materialistic tendencies, Swabhava Raktasya, they are more attached to the politics of Mahabharata, yeah, rather than the transcendence of the Bhagavad Gita presented in the Mahabharata. So that compromising spirit of Vyasdev is directly condemned by Narad Muni. Narad Muni is saying, don't get into this business of glorifying karma. Directly proclaim that the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relationship with the Lord and thus surrender unto Him without delay. Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam raja. That's the instruction. Talk about it directly. Just as an expert physician, so if somebody has an ailment and they are prohibited from eating certain foodstuffs, the physician will not like make compromise. They'll be strict. Similarly, for somebody who's attached to fruitive work, we see that Bhagavad Gita says, Na buddhi bhedam janai. We'll talk about that in the next few verses. Encourage them, but tell them to practice karma with detachment. For whom is it recommended? For empiric philosophers without spiritual realization. But for those who have devotional faith, they should never be advised to do karma. So everything is there nuances. What is the adhikar of the audience? Where are you giving them an entry point? Where is the exit point? This is the job of a acharya like Vyasdev, and only an expert guru like Narad Muni can point out the faults. Okay. Then he continues presenting the fault in the verse 16. Let's read the verse. Vichakshano syarhati veditum vibhur anantaparasya nivritta sukham प्रवर्तमानस्य गुणैर अनात्मनस् ततो भवान् दृश्य चेष्टितं विभुः. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Ananta. Ananta Parasya. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge. So, Narad Muni is giving a adhikar. Deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachments should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through description of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. They may not have the adhikar, but you can create their adhikar because you have that transcendental realization. So rather than encouraging them in karma, why not you share the glories of Bhagwan and create their devotional faith? So Srila Prabhupada begins by saying that this theological science, basically the science of realizing God, is a difficult subject matter because it deals with transcendental nature of the Lord, which is beyond the understanding of us who are attached to a material conception of life, a bodily conception of life. So those who have loosened their grip from a bodily conception and a material conception of life by a culture of spiritual knowledge, see again, jnana is required. They can be admitted to the study of this great science. So do not present karma, in fact, condemn karma and directly describe the glories of Bhagavan. Because you think people are intelligent, they are not intelligent. There are two types of people. Itara Janaha, in the previous verse, it was said that people who have material swabhava, Itara Jana, will take that as the standard and then follow only karma, not progress into jnana or bhakti. So those who were without proper discrimination, Itara Jana of the previous verse, yeah, They were certain that you are recommending karma. For them, the same Vedas are giving karma. But for those who have discernment, vichakshanaha, they can understand that when we give up the material pleasure, nivrittaha, the word used in this verse is critical. Nivritta means detachment. So you have given them a path of pravritti, fueling their material desires, and hopefully through fulfilling their material desires, realizing that we are getting our material desires fulfilled through a Vedic way. So let's understand what is the Vedic way further. They will not be interested. They'll just come for that and go. Sometimes we think, when we do something like a present a bridge approach, sometimes people come only for what they are interested in and they take that and leave. You think, oh, let them come for this and then they'll stay on for the next. Probably they won't. So if we have to put everything in one word, Narad Muni is saying you presented the path of pravritti, which is condemned, jugupsitam. You should have rather presented the path of nivritti, detachment from sense gratification. Don't encourage it. Yeah. So nivritti is what you should have presented. And how would you do it? You would say, people would not be interested. Ananta parasya. See, Bhagwan has that power to purify the swabhava of people. You should have just narrated the glories of Bhagwan. Yeah, by coming in touch with that, they would have overcome their swabhava. You didn't give them that opportunity for purification. So when they come in touch with topics of Bhagwan, they will understand that happiness in connection to Bhagwan is unlimited, whereas happiness in relation to objects is limited. When they understand that, vichikshana, the discerning people will be able to make that difference. They'll start performing bhakti. Yeah. And by seeing that, oh, intelligent people are performing bhakti, then even those who are not intelligent, itara jana, even masses will start following the leaders. Yadyat acharati shreshtas. This is the strategy of Narad Muni. You see how different the two are? One is saying, give a higher relish, make them overcome their lower desires. Just introduce Bhagwan. The topics of Bhagwan are powerful. They will cure the disease of material desires. Vyasdev was being compassionate. He said, okay, let people have some material desires. Then they'll come to Jnana, then they'll come to Bhakti. He encouraged Pravritti. Narad Muni said, just present Nivritti Marg and Bhagavad Bhakti directly. So, just present the pastimes of the Lord. And even so, in this way, both category of people will be able to practice bhakti. You might think they don't have the qualification, but those who have the power to discriminate, they will understand that it's superior, bhakti is superior to karma. They'll practice bhakti. Looking at them, non-intelligent will also start practicing bhakti. So this is a different approach given by Narad Muni. So Narad Muni is saying, why didn't you present a superior happiness? You're thinking, let me, you know, appease to their current desires. How will they give up their desires immediately? You should have given a superior happiness. That is the way they would have overcome their current desires. So nivritti will become sustainable. You will be able to practice detachment from matter only if there is a positive attraction, a higher taste. So that is what you should have done, Vyasdev. So when people, even if people are engaged in material life, when they hear about topics related to Bhagwan, they'll experience spiritual pleasure because that is the power of topics of Bhagwan. Why didn't you have that faith that Hari Katha can gradually displace material desire? That is the path of Nivritti. So we just don't need only detachment, we need a better attachment. That is what we have also discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. Is it okay? Does it make sense? So are you amazed by how Narad Muni is presenting a better way to reach the audience? Then now what is he saying? Focus on bhakti, don't present karma. In fact, condemn karma. So if karma is condemned, is that right? Now this beautiful and very popular, very famous verse comes. Narad Muni is saying, don't worry. Karma in the ultimate terms has no utility. So he presents that through the next two verses, 17 and 18. त्यक्त्वा स्वधर्मं चरणं भुजं हरेर् भजन् अपक्वो ततपते ततो यदि यत्र क्वा वा भद्रम् अभूत् अमुष्य किम् को वार्थ आप्तो abhajatam swadharmatah. Okay, so you are saying, Vyasdev might say that Bhagavad Gita says, Na buddhi bhedam janai. Don't disturb the intelligence of the ignorant who are attached to results of their work. This is Bhagavad Gita 3:26. Those who are karma sangina, swabhava raktasya, those who are attached to the fruits of karma, they are ajnana jana, itara jana. See the similarity? Don't disturb them. Na buddhi bhedam janai. Vyasdev says, I followed that. Continue to engage them in work with detachment. So you should always encourage their engagement in karma, not discourage. So as they might say, yeah, Bhagavad Gita says it is forbidden to give up karma. So therefore I did not, ask them to give up karma. So Narada Muni says that may be true, but this instruction of na buddhi bhedam janai is given to someone who's teaching jnana. This is a very important principle. Please pay attention. When you're teaching jnana requires a qualification. What is the qualification to practice jnana? Inner purification. You have to have shuddhata, chitta shuddhi. How do you get that chitta shuddhi? We just discussed in Bhagavad Gita. Purification comes through duty. When you are not distracted by dualities, heat or cold, praise or criticism, I continue performing my duty. Act responsibly. That's Nishkam Karma Yoga. So when you perform Nishkama Karma Yoga, that leads to purification. That culminates in Jnana. So when you are teaching Jnana, then you should encourage karma. Because Nishkam Karma purifies. And purification is the requirement for Jnana. But Bhakti does not have a prerequisite of inner purification. You see the difference? You see the difference at the principle level. Bhakti doesn't require purification to begin with. And the process of purification is Nishkam Karma. So Bhakti automatically is independent of Nishkam Karma. So if you are teaching Bhakti, you can directly come to Bhakti and not rely on karma. There will be no fault. Because it's not required. You present Bhagwan, Hari Katha, Hari Kirtan, get people to experience a higher relish. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 9, verse number 50, there's a verse where Lord Himself says, one who knows the highest good will never instruct a foolish person to engage in material enjoyment. Very clearly, if you know the highest good is bhakti, shreyasya, then you will not encourage somebody in karma. Just as an experienced physician gives his patient diet which is healthy, even if the patient does not like it. And even if the patient desires some kind of a diet, if it is unhealthy, if it is injurious, the physician will not give it. So you have to be clear. You are a physician. You are not an order supplier of the masses. You don't give them what they want. You should give them what they need. You are their guru. You are their doctor. So higher than na buddhi vedam jana is sarva dharman parityajya. Don't let them be at a lower level. Lead them to a higher level of surrender. So on the basis of this, one should teach only bhakti to the Lord. And you can give up attachment to karma. You can stop doing your varnashram activities. That is the meaning of tyaktva swadharma. So you understand the different approaches. Bhagavad Gita gives us the approach that you have a swabhava, a contaminated consciousness. To purify it, you practice swadharma, and then you reach your swarupa. So that is the path of jnana. You practice nishkama karma yoga to purify your chitta, then you reach jnana, then you get atma sakshatkar.
Prabhu,
But
can you just say that again, Prabhu, please, if you don't mind?
yeah,
Bhagavad
sure.
Gita
So
teaches us.
Bhagavad Gita is giving us a map of Swabhava to Swadharma to Swarupa. Bhagavatam is saying Bhakti is the highest dharma. In our essential nature, we are Krishna Das. Jivara Swarupa Krishnara Nityadas. So why don't we that our goal is to reach Swarupa, right? So why do you need to take the route of Swabhava and Swadharma? Bhakti is already at the level of Swarupa. Bhakti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavastiti. Mukti hitva, which is same as bhakti. What does liberation or devotion means? That you give up all other conceptions. Sarva dharman parityajya. Give up the identity that you are a Kshatriya also. So Bhagavatam is presenting straight bhakti. You don't even need to take the detour of karma because jnana requires a inner purification. Bhakti doesn't. So let those who are teaching jnana, let them encourage karma. But you are not teaching jnana. You are presenting bhakti, which does not require purification, and therefore it does not require karma. Let people do the direct activities of bhakti. That is their swarupa siddhi. So teach only bhakti. Even give up varnashram dharma. This is a big claim to make. So both have their objectives. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is motivating Arjun to act responsibly. He wants Arjun to act according to his Swadharma, which is Kshatriya, because there's a war to be fought. So for Sri Krishna, Arjun attaining his Swarupa and the battle of Kurukshetra happening, both are required. But for us, we don't need to, by our Swadharma be situated in our Varnashram. It is relative, it is subjective, it is different from each of us, for each of us. We can directly practice bhakti because there is no prerequisite. Jnana may have purification as a prerequisite, bhakti does not have purification as a prerequisite. So therefore, you don't need to do the acts of purification, which is nishkama karma. Therefore, karma is dispensable. That's the conclusion. So even in the beginning stages of karma, even in the beginning stages of bhakti, karma is forbidden. So here Narad Muni says, Tyaktva swadharma charanam bhujam hare. One who renounces karma and takes the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Yeah. Let us read the
So,
translation
but that is
again.
what Krishna was telling Arjuna, right? He was telling Arjuna that only.
What?
I mean, Arjuna was telling Krishna that only, that I don't want to do the karma. I want to just surrender. I
Yeah.
don't want
See,
to do the karma.
Arjun at that stage was qualified for duty.
Okay,
Krishna
based on the
wanted,
qualifications.
yes, yes. So, I see, in a ultimate sense, Arjun is already a pure devotee. So, we cannot say that he was not qualified for bhakti at any time. But if we have to follow the plot of Bhagavad Gita, at that point of time, Sri Krishna saw Arjun to be qualified for duty, for dharma. So therefore, Sri Krishna instructed him that you have to surrender, remember me and fight. That was Sri Krishna's teaching to Arjun. But what we are saying that it is not necessary for everyone to do that. We can directly come to bhakti. Tyaktva swadharma. That is what this verse is so powerfully and confidently saying. If a person having given up his duties in Varnashram begins the worship of the Lord's lotus feet, Tyaktva swadharma. Swadharm chhod diya. Charan ambujam harer. Charan is feet, ambuja is lotus feet of Hari. Bhajan. One starts bhajan of the lotus feet of Hari by giving up their duties in Varnashram. What happens? Apakko atha pate tato yadi. They gave up Varnashram duties and they started bhakti. What if they are not able to complete it? What if they deviate? What if they slip and fall down? Narad Muni says that is better. There is no misfortune for him at all in the future. Va Bhadram. Abhadra means misfortune. Va Abhadram. What misfortune will be there for such a person? On the contrary, if somebody follows their Varnashram duties perfectly but does not reach to the worship of the Lord, what have they gained? Ko va atra apto ab abhajatam. जो अभजताम हैं, जो नॉन वर्शिपर्स हैं, उन्होंने स्वधर्म करके भी क्या पा लिया? So this is like a question. It's like a rhetorical question. So Narad Muni is saying, even if you do karma perfectly and don't conclude with devotion, it is useless. Whereas if you start with devotion, even if you're immature, it is not a fault to give up karma. So we are discussing a very important principle here. And the basis also explained that the two paths of jnana and of bhakti have different qualifications. Purity, inner purification is not a qualification for bhakti. Okay, so we are let's discuss further, and you will also then be able to completely appreciate. So, if a person starts practicing bhakti, giving up their varnashram duties, they will incur no sin because of giving up their swadharma. So you see, somebody who is impure, what did Lord say? What did Lord tell Arjun? Why you should not run away from the battlefield? Because Arjun was not choosing bhakti. Remember, Arjun was choosing inaction, which Sri Krishna did not allow. He said, inaction is not going to help you, Arjun. The impure mind will go with you to the forest. And a fake, sincere sweeper in the street is better than a fake meditator. So it was always about purification. So somebody who starts practicing bhakti, giving up swadharma, there's no fault in that. And to establish that, we have another verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where, this famous verse again, Devarshi Bhutaptranam Pritrinam Nakinkaro Nayam Rini Charajan Sarvatmana Sarvatmana Ya Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Pariritya Kartam. This verse says, anyone who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of Mukunda, Sharanam Sharanyam, taken shelter of one who is qualified to give shelter. Who is that? Mukundam, the giver of liberation, Parihritya Kartam, the giver of all kinds of obligation. So anyone who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna and has taken to the path in all seriousness, Sarvatmana, sincerely, pure man se, owes, well, they don't owe anything, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Deva, Rishi, Bhuta, Nrinam, Pitrinam, They have no obligation. All their obligations are dissolved because they have surrendered to Mukunda. Yeah. So it says, what if a person starts bhakti? Okay, you're saying bhakti doesn't require purification, so one doesn't need to perform karma. So imagine somebody starts performing bhakti, but they're unable to complete it. Yeah. Even then, there is no misfortune or fault by giving up karma. Why? What do you think? Take a guess. We discussed this in Bhagavad Gita, but let's pinpoint the principle. Somebody gives up karma, starts practicing bhakti, is unable to complete the practice of bhakti, practices a little and then falls down. What is the
Neha
saving
Vikramo
grace?
Neha Vikramo na Piyoste.
Correct. Neha Vikrama Nashasti. Correct. What does it mean?
That even if there's a little progress on this path, there is absolutely no loss. Even if it's interrupted because it'll start from where you left off, there will be no loss ever.
Correct. Why? Because these activities are of a different category. Nahi kalyanakrit. There are two types of work. One is ordinary work and one is transcendental work. So bhakti comes in the category of transcendental action. So in this category of transcendental action, whatever you do is permanent. There is no diminution in it. So you know what happens when you start practicing bhakti but are unable to complete it? You practice bhakti, and by practicing bhakti for whatever while, you created impressions of bhakti. The bhakti vasanas will always stay with you. That is the biggest benefit. They will always remain in you in a subtle form. They are not karma that, they will get, oh, they will dwindle or get dissolved. Just 1 second. Okay, so I hope you're able to follow that practicing bhakti even for a while, it leaves permanent bhakti vasanas. Yeah. When you are having bhakti vasanas, you should not go back to karma. So there is no loss, there is no misfortune. And in the 11th canto, Shri Krishna himself tells Uddhava, because I have personally established it, this process of Nishkama Bhakti is beyond the gunas. Even by starting and not completing the process, there is no destruction of results. So it cannot be more clear than this. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 29th chapter, 20th verse. So the idea is that once the sprout of bhakti has started, it will be productive. It will ultimately bear fruit. So even if one starts but is not able to complete, one will be able to continue in the next lifetime with the same bhakti vasanas. And those bhakti vasanas remain to our eternal credit. On the contrary, what is gained from performing all of one's karma swadharmataha by people who do not worship the Lord? Abhajatam. So you see, the method is progressive. It should ultimately conclude with acknowledging and serving Bhagwan. But if somebody is just practicing karma and it doesn't lead them to worship, it's useless. So first, Narad Muni is saying that devotional impressions are indestructible. And bhajan apakwa doesn't mean insincere, it means immature. Only criteria in bhakti is sincerity, not purification. Remember, purification is a criteria for jnana. So the practitioner may be sincere, but because they might lack time or like steadiness, They might have influence of their previous habits, so they might not be able to reach maturity. But the problem is, even a lapse does not return you to zero. Why? Because the taste and samskaras of bhakti remain with you eternally. And the stories of Bharat Maharaj, who, took birth as a deer because that's who he was remembering at the time of his death. But in that deer body, he had remembrance of his previous lives. And then he remained a very sincere, serious deer. And then he finally took the body of Jad Bharat. So that entire episode highlights this principle that it doesn't eradicate the trajectory of the person. Chitraketu Maharaj. Yeah. So Ajamil, Gajendra. So clearly, anyone who starts performing bhakti will eventually gain from it, will eventually continue from it, from where they left. So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
yes,
Prabhuji, can I ask one question?
yes, please.
Pundarik, Bhakta Pundarik, okay, he just did his duty towards his parents. Yet the
Mm-hmm.
Lord came, so that means he was doing karma. Like he was duty bound, and earlier he had a past where he was totally like he was neglecting his parents and all that. But later he
Mm.
was serving his parents nicely. He served his parents, and so Lord came to see him. He was
Mm.
just doing karma yoga. I don't think he was the bhakt at that time. I'm not aware of that
Mm.
story. And similarly, in case of this Purandar Das from Karnataka, he was
Mm-hmm.
also a miser. If you see it, it is past. Yet
Right.
Lord, yet the Lord came in means disguise. Means if we know the past time, he came in disguise, and let Lord gave him darshan or like gave him bhakti. So how do we
Mm.
explain that? Because they were not devotees yet. I mean, they were not doing bhakti. There was no element of bhakti. Yet Lord appeared to them. So how?
I mean, see, if Lord is appearing, it has to be an element of bhakti. Lord doesn't appear for karma or jnana. Yeah, it'll be Paramatma or Brahman who reveals himself. So, if we go deep into the study of that, there has to be some element of bhakti. We can study it and come back in the next discussion. But my point is, one is let's try to find the case that did their practice involve surrender, prayer, petition to the Lord. Bhakti can have so many elements. It doesn't mean going to a temple and worshipping a form of the Lord. Yeah. So, did they have exclusive dependence on the Lord? So, let us find that out and then comment on this. The second thing I'd like to say is that, like we discussed Bhagavad Gita, every message, every episode has a certain audience. There is a qualification. So, is it meant for a group of people to inspire them to do karma who are otherwise acting selfishly? Okay, take care of your parents. Who will you give this instruction to? Somebody who is not taking care, who's whimsical, irresponsible. So I'm trying to say there are gradations of instruction. Which instruction is given to which audience can differ. We are discussing compiling Bhagavad Puran. Bhagavatam is Paramahamsa Samhita. It is not meant to teach people, worldly duties. It is way beyond that. People who are way more qualified than that. So every text will have a unique message for a certain audience. There will be adhikar, there will be a starting point and then exit point. So it's okay. That message can exist. What's the problem? Being truthful is also a message in the Vedas. Truthfulness alone is not devotion. So we don't have to necessarily make these two things collide. It's not required. They are existing for people at different levels and for different goals. Is that okay? We are discussing why Narad Muni is saying you should have not presented karma. That is the discussion we are having. Okay, so let's find if you can give reference from scriptures, and let's read the verses and find out what is the nature of their practice. Okay,
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
so here we are basically seeing that duty without worship may lead to temporary order or merit. Karma karo, it creates social order, yeah, harmony, and merit to oneself. But if it is without worship, what eternal gain has it secured? So we are talking here, first of all, at the level of the soul. So what is the eternal gain in performing karma? Can you tell me? Even if it is humanitarian work, like taking care of people. So it is incomplete. So duty without worship leads to no eternal gain. So problem is not that if we start performing bhakti and are unable to complete it. It is the path gives us eternal transcendental impressions. So people think that, okay, let me not do bhakti now because I am not ready for it. Let me do something I can do perfectly. That's not the way to start. If you even chant sincerely for a while, or study sincerely for a while, or serve very sincerely for a while, that can influence your future choices, even if the circumstances interrupt your practice. So the idea of I'll start doing it when I'm ready is not really a good premise. And of course, this verse is not saying that, okay, give up karma. Does it anywhere say that become irresponsible? That is our interpretation. We like to, see that the reverse is true. It doesn't say that. If we understand Adhikar, we will be able to understand scriptures very smoothly. It is for people who are, doing karma. For them, attaching worship is the point. Not that become irresponsible. Tyaktva swadharma charanambujamare. If you become a devotee, you become careless, irresponsible, reckless. Those who are at that stage do not have it in them to become irresponsible. Okay. So it's not talking of neglect or irresponsibility at any time, because it's talking to a candidate who's qualified for more, who's already sincere. Okay, so here Srila Prabhupada in the purport says that, he gives the example of Bharat Maharaj and Chitraketu. He just verbally offended Lord Shiva and he had to face consequences. But then he was rescued. So the point is, once engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one will continue to serve in all circumstances. So it is important that we begin with sincerity. And then the process itself will help us continue and perfect it. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said even a small quantity of devotional service can save one from the most dangerous position. Swalpam api asya dharmasya. Parodharma is bhakti, so even a little bit of parodharma or Bhagavad Dharma can save us from the most dangerous position. Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhaya. Ajamil is also one instance. The common thing in this is all of them practiced devotion at some point. And it was interrupted, but then it again continued. Okay. Then Narad Muni continues in verse 18, therefore, how should you act? Tasyeva hetu prayate tako vido na labhyate yad भ्रमताम उपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवद अन्यतः सुखम कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररम हसा. So Narad Muni is saying the wise man, people who are actually intelligent or wise, kovido, dhira, persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined, should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmalok, down to the lowest planet, Pathalalok. Na labhyate yad, that which is not obtained, Brahmatam, by Brahman, wandering, where Upari Adha, top to bottom in the material realm, you wander, still you cannot get it. That is the goal you should aim for. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, karma, the path of karma, and enjoying the fruits of karma, it can be obtained automatically in the course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. So it's the play of Kala and karma. We will get what we deserve. Nobody wants to be miserable, but still everyone gets miseries because it's our karma. Similarly, if it is in our karma to get sukha, we will get sukha. We as humans try to correlate our effort to sukha. That's not true. Karma and kala have a bigger role to play in our sukha than just our cheshta. So here Prabhupada says, everyone is trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment by various endeavors, by economic development, through all trade, industry, economic development, politics. So some do it in this way, economic development, politics. Some engage in fruitive work, karma kand, religious rituals to become happy in the next life by attaining the higher planets. Because there are also statements in scripture which encourage this. They say, yeah, you reach Swarga and they will get to drink Somarasa and you'll become immortal. But that immortal is not absolute immortal because it is still in the material realm. Like Swarga, the lifespan might be huge compared to the earthly realm, but it is not immortality. Because when the Brahmanda undergoes destruction, the Swarga also will. So there are portions in the Vedas and Upanishads which encourage people to seek happiness of Swarga. Yeah. And also seek happiness in this life. So how can, one like Vyasdev is trying to promote bhakti for people, and Narad Muni Singh just promote bhakti by rejecting one's dharma. Okay, but the idea of doing dharma in scripture is to be happy in this life and the next. So Narad Muni says those who are wise, Kovida, they'll not be bewildered that, oh, if I give up my karma, I'll not be able to gain happiness in this life and the next. Isn't it exactly the argument Arjun makes in chapter 1? Yeah. Papa, sin will sin will overcome us. So the idea is a person with discrimination will not say this. Kovida are aiming for a cause which is not attained by wandering in the material realm. What is that cause? Ultimate cause of moksha. Material happiness you can gain by wandering in this realm from earth to Swarga and so on. So which body are we born in, which planet are we born in, that cycle of samsara is karma based. But let us go with the intelligent are those who aim for something which you cannot get by wandering, which is eternal. So basically, those who are intelligent aim for an eternal goal, not for a temporary goal. So this verse is not saying that you should not put in effort. It's saying just think, where are you putting in your effort? You are striving, but for what? And the living just by wandering, you can just extend your conditions. You can improve or degrade your condition. Sampatti or vipatti. But that is again duality. It is in the scope of matter. A Kovida would really be interested in prapatti, surrender. So that is eternal gain, which we cannot get by wandering in samsara. That is what Kovidas aim for. That is devotion. So karma will automatically give happiness and distress when it is the right time. So do not spend the rare, limited human energy in pursuing results which are temporary, which anyways you get by karma. Invest it in hearing, service, and higher realization. That is what Narayana is saying. That you are giving people wisdom. That wisdom should direct human energy towards something that cannot be attained through karma. If it can be attained through karma, then what is the point in making it a dharma? Why are you calling it a religion? So that is very important. And then in the 19th verse, just hold on. Yeah, in the next verse, Narad Muni goes on to say how the bhakti vasanas will be eternal. Let's chant verse. Okay, before that, anything we missed in the purport? Yeah. Yeah, we've covered this. So one should therefore not waste time with these flimsy things, yeah, which are obtainable within this world. One should only endeavor to go back to Godhead. That should be the mission of everyone's life. Verse 19. न वै जनो जातु कथाञ्चन अव्रजेन मुकुन्द सेवा अन्यवद् अंगसंस्मृतिं स्मरन् मुकुन्दाङ्घ्रि उपानुगनं पुनर्विहातुम् इच्छेन न रसग्रहो जनः. Very beautiful verse. It says, my dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or the other, he certainly does not undergo material existence. Yeah. Like others, fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. So once tasted Mukunda's feet, you cannot fall back into samsara. A servant of Krishna never returns to samsara in the same way as somebody who's following the path of karma. Why? Because the bhaktas have received devotional taste and they never wish to abandon them. So first it is continuing from the previous verse, Tyaktva Swadharma. Even if bhakti is incomplete, it is protected. Why? Because the devotee has experienced a higher quality of rasa. And it is very interesting to see that it says embrace. Remember that ecstasy again and again. Mukunda Sevi, a devotee, a sevak of Mukunda. Mukund Angri Upaguhanam. Upaguhanam means embrace. Why is the word embrace used? So, when you surrender and serve the Lord, it is actually shelter that you are experiencing. You are experiencing sheltered, you are experiencing a sense of belonging, you are experiencing the sweetness of Bhagwan. So it is not just a philosophy, it is actually an experience. Therefore, it is called embrace of Mukunda's feet. So, one who has had an experience of spiritual joy, but is now, if for some reason they have fallen from that practice and there is a interruption, even that interruption produces repentance. It produces remembrance, and it will ultimately lead to return. So this is rasagraha. So that is here the presentation on this verse, that even if we think that a devotee is unable to complete the path, if they have poor determination, they start but they're not able to complete it. They never return to samsara like a karmi does. If anyone who's practicing the path of karma, their results are temporary and they'll come back. They'll start from zero. Why? Because a devotee does not experience sukha and dukkha from karmas. Even if there is certain sukha and dukkha in their life, the life of a devotee, it is not coming from karma, it is coming directly from the Lord. So, two things. One, the devotee Mukunda Sevi has experienced the relish of service and remembrance of Krishna. So that relish will never go away. Second, they were never influenced by karma. In the life of an ordinary karmi, karma kandi, both their sukha and dukkha come from their previous karma. But for a bhakta, the sukha and dukkha for bhakta doesn't come from karma, it comes directly from Krishna. It is directly given by him. The evidence from this is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 87th chapter, verse number 40. It is you, Krishna, who controls a devotee's good and bad fortune. Yeah, so for a Vaishnava, there is no karma, and the Vaishnavas do not have rebirth caused by karma. It is in Krishna's jurisdiction now. So, one is we don't want to give up the relish once we have had it. Second, we are not on the path of karma anymore. Yeah, so
Can I
we'll
ask
always
something?
remember. Yeah, one second, we'll always remember our previous state of bliss. And we'll also remember that, oh, my present state of distress is from not remembering the Lord. Then we'll repent. I had that bliss, and my current distress is from forgetfulness of the Lord. What have I done? I should go back to worship of the Lord. I should not abandon the worship of the Lord. Yeah, so it says one does not desire to give up. The rasa graha means one who is eager for tasting. Once you have tasted the bhakti ras, it can never leave you. You are haunted by rasa. Because that rasa is of such a superior taste. If you go to a fine dine and you experience the purest of ingredients without any artificial seasoning and flavors, after that you'll not be able to relish anything else because then everything else will appear contaminated. That is what happens to a devotee who experiences rasa. After the stages of nishtha, ruchi, asakti, that rasa is very deep. And it's not that we have to wait for that stage of bhava to occur. Even from the first day of you starting to worship the Lord, you start to experience a portion of that rasa. A little rasa is still available to you because, as we have discussed previously as well, bhakti is an anubhav. Bhakti pareshanubhav. It is an anubhav of paraish. So Narad Muni is saying here that it's okay. You will revisit the moments when you did kirtan, when you went on a pilgrimage, and when devotee association made your heart grow so fond, and that you will re-enter those practices. There is a healthy return from that taste which cannot be given up. So the path is assured. That is the point. Yes, your question now.
So we said that a devotee understands that the sukha, dukkha they experience comes from the Lord. But are we talking about just the pure devotees here, or are we talking about even the regular devotees? And usually we look at
Pure devotee.
sukha. Right, got it. Okay, because
Pure
otherwise we
devotee
look at it from prarabdha,
Yeah.
right?
Correct. See, to the degree you are gone beyond karma, which means your faith is purely in bhakti. What is the definition of Shraddha we saw? श्रद्धा शब्द विश्वास कहे सुदृढ़ निश्चय कृष्ण भक्ति कोइला सर्व कर्म कृत हो. And doing bhakti alone, all my obligations are taken care of. If we have that level of conviction, that is called Shraddha. So having firm exclusive faith in bhakti, that is what makes it pure bhakti. That is where this applies. Then we are beyond the influence of karma. If we are practicing mixed bhakti, that, oh, I'm doing my karma and I'm offering it to Krishna, that is not pure bhakti. Because your karma is driven by your svabhava. You are doing it because it is your nature. You want to do it. If Krishna says, I don't want this, I want something else, you'll say, but no, that is not my nature. The point is, we do whatever Krishna likes. That is bhakti.
Right. So we're
So,
looking at pure devotees here. Then.
yes.
Got it. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. So let's look at one more verse here. Yeah, about time, right? We can take one more verse. Idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaro yato jagat sthana nirodha sambhavaha tadhi swayam veda bhavams tathapi te pradeshamatram bhavata pradarshitam. So, oh, we didn't see the purport of the previous verse. Rasagraha is one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. A karmi suffers the result of his own fruitive reactions, where a devotee is reformed by the chastisement directed by the Lord himself. So the keyword here is directed. In the life of a devotee, everything is directed by the Lord. In the life of a karmi, it is directed by karma and karma phala. And Prabhupada beautifully brings this example of the sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king. Both are suffering, but an orphan is poor. An orphan has no one to take care. But a beloved son of a rich man, although they appear that they are suffering like an orphan, they are still under the vigilance of their capable father. So, bhakti means you have Bhagwan as your father. So, a devotee of the Lord, sometimes due to wrong association, may imitate the karmis. What does the karmi want to do? The karmi wants to enjoy matter, lord it over material world. So similarly, a neophyte devotee sometimes wants to accumulate material power. In exchange for bhakti, they think that by bhakti they'll gain material wealth or affluence. But these neophyte devotees are foolish. And Krishna puts them into a difficulty as a special favor. Yasyaham anugrinami harishre tad dhanam shanai. As a special favor, he may remove all material paraphernalia. Yeah, what happens then? A devotee has taken shelter, and then Krishna takes away all his material attachments. He's forsaken by his friends and relatives, and then he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord. So even if a devotee suffers, the suffering is because Krishna wants to bring that devotee closer to him. Krishna wants the devotee to learn some lesson and is set right to execute his devotional service. So basically, Krishna ultimately wants us to practice bhakti, and any impediment in its path, Krishna removes, even if it is wealth. So Bhagavad Gita says that such fallen devotees are given a chance to take birth in a family of qualified brahmanas or rich, or in a rich mercantile family. A devotee in such a position is not as fortunate as the one who is chastised by the Lord and put into a position seemingly of helplessness. So, which is better of the two? Somebody who has everything taken away, who is helpless, or somebody who has got the opportunity to take their next birth in the home of learned or opulent families? Prabhupada says the devotee who becomes helpless by the will of the Lord is more fortunate than those who are born in good families. Why? The fallen devotees born in a good family may forget the lotus feet of the Lord. They are called Naradhama. When we study Bhagavad Gita, 4 kinds of people who do not approach Krishna. One is Naradham. Naradham means they are in a favorable position to practice devotional service, like being in a family of learned or opulent members, but they misuse that position. So someone who has received it but doesn't use it, they are called Naradhama. So they are prone to forgetting Krishna's lotus feet. But somebody who Krishna has put into a state of helplessness, yeah, they are more fortunate because he swiftly returns to the lotus feet of the Lord, thinking himself helpless all around. They feel, I have no other shelter. And Krishnaika Sharanam is the primary characteristic of Sharanagati, not having 2, 3 shelters. That if this doesn't work, I'll do this. When you are Ekantika, when you rely completely on Krishna, that is when your progress is the fastest. Devotional service, pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. That is a sign of perfection in progressive devotional service. So, if you want to see if we have made progress, the symptom is our disinterest in material enjoyment. So, this is what we have studied today, that the path of bhakti is resilient. It's not simple or straightforward. There might be a temporary fall on it also. Yeah. But still, it will lead us to Mukunda because we have an experience of his sweetness. We are prasagraha. We are obsessed, possessed by the sweetness of Krishna. So the real spiritual risk is not imperfect devotion, that, oh, I didn't complete my devotion. The real risk is a life of competent duty. You do your varnashram perfectly, but never develop devotion. It's like beating an empty husk. As much you beat it, there is no grain. What is it going to lead to? It's futile. So this verses say that perfect performance of material duty does not secure anything eternal. But one who begins devotional service, they never return to material life in the same way as the karmi. Why? Because they have gained something which is eternal, indestructible. What is that? The bhakti vasanas, the spiritual impressions. That is the biggest gain. Okay, so we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.